Back to Hardball. There's a fight in Texas right now about how history will be taught, and as you can see from these protesters, people are angry about it. Here's what happened at last night's hearing down there. It's about an amendment to the 8th grade social studies curriculum. Let's listen to the debate.
The sovereignty of the U.S. is a very important issue. There's efforts to try to put us under world court, other UN bodies. We had testimony yesterday by several people supporting this amendment. To me, this is a standard for the children to be able to evaluate the efforts by these organizations to undermine U.S. sovereignty. To me, it's an accurate term.
I'm wondering where the teachers would really find information that would support this, since our sovereignty hasn't been undermined.
Well, those are good debating points. That amendment passed, and now Texas student social studies curriculum will include evaluating, quote, efforts by global organizations to undermine U.S. sovereignty through use of treaties. Is this right? Wayne Slater is a senior political writer at the Dallas Morning News, and Benjamin Jealous is, of course, president of the NAACP. I want to start with Wayne on the ground out there. This debate looked like a familiar one. Do the teachers out there believe that they're educating kids or recruiting them for a political cause to become, I could say this, conservatives, to put it lightly, to be fighting any effort by the United States to join the UN, to join the IMF, to join the World Bank, to join the international courts, the law of the seas? It sounds like it's arming them to be in a struggle rather than educate them. My thoughts.
Yeah, this is less about education, these kind of amendments, than it is about politics and really the culture wars. There's no effort to undermine, no serious effort, I think most people would recognize, to undermine the sovereignty of the United States. I think McElroy, Mr. McElroy, a board member who submitted this, is worried, among other things, about a United Nations international gun ban. Well, let me tell you, there's nobody in Texas who's going to fall under a United Nations gun ban or anything else that would restrict our sovereignty. But it is part of that larger concern of many social conservatives, and that's that there's a one-world government underway, and this reflects that.
Ben, what is your worries about this? Do you have concerns that kids are being schooled this way into this kind of perhaps overzealous fear that the United States is losing its country to overseas organizations?
Yeah, I mean, this, they want the Tea Party to teach our kids. This is about 5 million kids in Texas and kids in 20 more states. And it's going to be a bunch of half-truths that this vote goes through. We will fight them. We're fighting them in California right now, and we've had some success. We will fight them across the street at the state capitol where they want to spend $1 billion buying books full of half-truths that teach our kids to hate.
Wayne, let me ask you this. Is it only about this black helicopter stuff? That black helicopter stuff meaning, of course, referring to the fear that these people are going to be coming from the UN. They're coming in to take over your town from overseas, speaking foreign languages from Europe probably, ready to take over your country, almost like the way European countries were taken over by Hitler. That fear being inculcated in textbooks, fine. What other fears do people have who are in the center or on the left down there?
Well, there's a fear of a concern by some folks that American exceptionalism, that we're different, is not being properly taught. And more fundamental than that is really the debate over the separation of church and state. These people, many members, social conservatives, believe that there effectively is no separation between church and state. The Founding Fathers didn't mean that. And so there are efforts throughout the curriculum changes to introduce religion, religious faith, and religious Christian influences specifically all around. Because the fear is that secular government, that secularism, that atheism has taken over our schools. In an odd way, this debate is the kind of thing that we saw in the 50s, when in the early 60s, when the prayer issue, taking school prayer out of schools, became a rallying cry. Except that this is 2010.
And it's much more insidious. I mean, they want Phyllis Schlafly to be on the same short list of great heroes as Thurgood Marshall. I mean, it's just, again, they just want to lift up people who hate, and they want to, not even teach kids that the civil rights struggle was a struggle. They want to teach them that one day people just woke up and gave and just gave us our rights. I mean, they don't even want to teach that slavery was a reason for Texas to join the South. I mean, and fight the Civil War. So kids will learn that there was a Civil War, and they won't learn what it was about.
What was that true? I heard that they got rid of the word slave trade, that phrase, which we all grew up with and learned about it, and replaced it by that sort of a commercial term, the triangle trade, which of course had to do with molasses and the slave trade.
Right.
Now, we were taught how it was done, that sort of three-way trade that went on among Europe, Africa, West Africa, and the States. Why would they get the word slave out of there? I mean, that's a big part of our history to understand that.
When you kind of add it all up, and they want to change the name to the triangle trade. So all of a sudden, rum and cash and sugarcane are put on the same plane as people. When they don't want to teach you that slavery was a cause for the Civil War, then what you end up with is just a much prettier and bucolic view of history that's also dead wrong. I mean, they also want to defend Joe McCarthy. These people really can't tell the difference between fact and just opinion. They think every fact has a counterfact, like every opinion has a counter-opinion. No, it's just a fact. It was the slave trade. It's just a fact that Joe McCarthy was wrong. There's no counter-opinion to that.
Well, let's talk about that issue, because a lot of us grew up in the aftermath of that in the late 50s. Wayne, are they saying Joe McCarthy, who, I mean, he was drunk most of the time, were they saying that he was right about something? I thought he never actually caught a real live communist. I'm not saying there weren't some buried in the bowels of some bureaucracy. Certainly Alger Hiss was one, Elizabeth Bentley, a few others. But certainly he got the proportions out of whack, and he was going after dentists and military people in the Army and the Secretary of the Army, and he had these guys working for him with their crazy relationships and their draft deferments and everything, special assignments. It got completely crazy. Are they saying in these textbooks that Joe McCarthy had it right, that he was a straight shooter?
In effect, that is what they're saying. The specific provision regarding McCarthyism talks about students understanding and learning about the infiltration of communists in the government during the Cold War. So it really is an effort to redeem McCarthy, who has been much maligned in the eyes of many social conservatives.
Simply because he was wrong. I mean, he was just wrong, and we need to teach our kids that he was wrong. That's a fact, and that's the part that drives you crazy. There was the guy who's leading the fight on the school board is a dentist. There was a big sign down there that said "Pull teeth, not facts," and that's what.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks for being on. I hope we keep this straight. There can be, the left has been guilty of some of this in the past too, of using history to turn it into a preaching operation, a recruitment of a point of view. I think history ought to be pretty square, and it ought to have the bad and the good.
That's right.
One thing great about American history is we at our best will teach the facts, and that we are getting to be a better country than we were. And to deny that is to deny the better part of this country. We do try to get better, and slavery was back there, and it was an original sin. Anyway, thank you, Wayne Slater. Thank you, Ben Jealous.